Girl,
Girl,
bye. Girl, bye.
bye, girl, bye.
Girl, bye. Girl, bye.
Welcome to your safe space, honey. This is GirlBye, the podcast amplifying queer voices and kicking down the doors to so-called normalcy. Get ready for real talk, fierce discussions, and a whole lot of yes, honey. Welcome to GirlBye. I'm your host, Manuel, and bringing you yet another amazing story. We have Cam. Cam, welcome to GirlBye. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you?
Great, and excited to hear your story from your perspective. So, for everybody listening that might not know you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you find interesting in life.
Okay. So it's like starting a new job. You have to go around and to say a little something about yourself. So,
Yeah.
again, my name is Cam, and I am originally from Germany. I was born in Germany, and I became an army brat after that. I lived there for like 9 years, and then my mother met my father, who was stationed there in the army, and then we moved to the United States. I lived in Georgia, Texas, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and then I was in the Navy myself for like 3 years, and um, actually got kicked out of the Navy because somebody found out at the time I was bisexual. This was during a time of don't ask, don't tell, a very, very harmful era of the military. And so I got kicked out. Of course, they didn't say exactly that was the reason. They gave another reason, but that's another story. But I got out and I just started kind of living life. I moved out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where I'm still at today. And my entire life, I've been kind of like, I've known I was different on the inside. And back then I was bisexual, but I'm pansexual now. Uh, I didn't know I was non-binary until a few years ago. And here I am, 41 years old, so I'm a little bit later in life, but I know I know who I am now. It's like it's taken me a long time to discover who I am.
Now.
So I find interesting all the different people that are out there. Everybody has so many unique personalities. Like when I do my lives on TikTok, I come across so many awesome people, such as yourself, who just inspire me, who help me kind of get through life. Because there's definitely more to the world than just your bubble of people, right? There's so many different flavors of people and stories that can be shared. So that's what I find the most interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And yes, I mean, the journey is real. I spend a lot of time kind of going through TikTok lives and just talking to people because I find every person's perspective very interesting to me. Me being a city kid, growing up in New York and kind of not really seeing a lot of what I've heard other people talk about, like between racism and homophobia and things like
Mhm.
that. Like we had some homophobic people and stuff, but like
Sure.
it really wasn't something that I learned or came across till later in life. Till like I moved to Florida and like I was like, oh,
Oh,
this is these
yeah.
people are wild, or like moving to the Midwest and like I
Mm.
lived in Kentucky and the Ohio space for a little bit, and like that's a
Oh,
whole
wow.
nother like perspective. And so when you grow up in these other towns that you don't really understand it and you see these perspectives later, it's almost like eye-opening. And I know most people, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to the podcast understand that like most people don't leave, right? You grow up in a state, you live in that state forever, you live down the street from your parents or whatever that is.
Mhm.
And I think for queer people, from what I've learned in my time of knowing people and myself, we all leave. We all find somewhere to go
Try
that we
to.
feel safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to leave. We try to find places that we feel safer, more included. And I think it's all a search of inclusivity. Where do we feel that we are part of a community
Mhm.
versus kind of like, oh, there's that gay person at the church or there's that gay person at this event. we don't want to be that person, right? We want to be part of the community. We're just another human being here, just living.
I know that 100%. My high school, which was in Petal, Mississippi, had one out of the closet gay person, and he was black. So he had two things going against him already. So it was very interesting, and I actually became friends with him. I thought I wanted to date him at the time, but it wasn't. It didn't go anywhere. But still, it was really interesting, and he did not care at all. He was flamboyant and just out. And honestly, most people left him alone. And this was really surprising in Mississippi. I don't know how he acted outside of high school, but, probably did a lot more masking outside of high school when he was out in public more. But yeah, it's very interesting the bubbles that people live in, depending on where they live, because they can't be out, and I consider myself very lucky now to live in a place that's very carefree. Albuquerque, New Mexico is a melting pot of cultures and so many different people, and there's actually a pretty strong queer community here as well. So I feel very lucky that I can go out like this, and I more than likely 90% chance I'm not going to get any stares or anything. So
Yeah. That's a
so yeah.
beautiful situation to feel. I think, we all look for that. And we all look for those places where we feel the most comfortable. I mean, we all just want to live. We all just want to like have a good time, live our
Yes.
lives, like just
Yeah.
be who we want to be and
Mm-hmm.
respectfully, but there's
Right.
that too. So when did you officially kind of start feeling that you were different from kind of what your
No.
expectations were?
Well, outside from what society was telling me I should be,
Yeah, outside of
yeah,
the societal norms that you should
right,
be wearing blue and liking dinosaurs and race
right,
cars.
right. Um, well, I gotta say, I did like dinosaurs. So, I was a bit of a
Dinosaurs
dinosaur
are the
kid.
gayest animals, just saying.
I mean, look at those T-Rex arms, right?
Those T-Rex arms, look at those nails. She has her
Right,
nails
right.
done.
Fabulous. Um, so I realized when I was maybe like uh when I was like 9, I think. I knew I was different. I knew I didn't just like girls. And growing up with a father who was in the army and, living in these conservative states in the beginning stages, especially moving, to Georgia and, Texas. Pennsylvania wasn't any good either. This was Eastern Pennsylvania, like small town, like outside of Amish country. It wasn't that much better. It might as well have
Yikes.
been the South. So, but I knew I was different, but it wasn't just my sexuality that felt different. I knew I was different. I liked more feminine things, and for the longest time, for a short amount of time, I thought I was actually gay. Um, and then, when I was in the military, I met more people outside of the military as well. I had friends outside when I wasn't working. Um, I got really lucky. I was stationed in Hawaii of all places, beautiful place. Yeah, it was like Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, was where I was stationed. But on my days off, I would hang out with my friends and we would go to the club and stuff like that. And my eyes were open. I'm like, hey, there's a whole nother world out here. And yeah, I began to experiment. My very first time wearing makeup was a friend of mine was just playing with her makeup on my face, and I looked at my, I was like, "Oh my god, like what is this?"
Stunning.
And
Stunning.
yeah, yeah, and it kind of helped open up what something that was locked inside. It was
Yeah.
like that was the key. It's like it wasn't just the makeup, but it was the experience with being around other people that have these bigger world views, right? And I was like, you know what, this is really interesting. But then I didn't really do much with it, and I just kind of went back into my proverbial closet per se, because I didn't know what to do with that information. The term non-binary wasn't very well known at the time, right? And it
Right.
was I'm talking about early 2000s, when the whole makeup experience happened, right? And n- non-binaryism has existed for thousands of years, but it hasn't been really talked about until very recently, where people are connecting with each other and like, hey, I don't feel this way. I don't feel like I'm male or female. I don't feel like I identify with either or. And now, especially with the advent of the community with the internet, everybody's talking to each other, and it's like, hey, this is how I am. And there was somebody else is like me, like, oh, wait, I feel the same way. And I kind of like started shifting towards that, but I still didn't know until about 3 years ago. I met another non-binary person at a job I was working at. And I was like, and it just clicked, that lock was finally removed from the door. And I, that door opened. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is who I am. I
Yeah.
don't identify as male or female because I want to say too that I was put in a box my entire life because I'm tall. I'm 6'5", almost 300 pounds, and people have put me in this box like, oh, here's a 6'5" Viking. Let this is a man. This is
Yeah.
we look up to him. Every job I've done has been some sort of like menial, like, or I shouldn't say menial, manual labor, um, security jobs, being a security officer. I've been a bouncer at bars before, like, because people see me as this opposing force, and I don't feel that way. I have a feminine side to me. Even though I don't want to identify as a woman, I am trans feminine. That's how I identify. I'm trans femme non-binary, and I want the world to know this. Like, stop putting me in this box. I exist outside this box.
Right.
So and it's like, and that's my message to people. It's like, stop assuming, stop putting people in boxes. Everywhere I go, sir this, sir that. And it's like, I understand I present a lot of times as very masculine just due to my build alone. I can still wear makeup and still people still call me sir. It's just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a very feminine or androgynous body. Some people are lucky like that, right? But I'm not. And for those that are listening to this that have a similar build to me, I'm going to tell you that it's okay. That it's okay to feel the way you do. I want people that are watching this to know that if you present like me, if you look like me, if you're tall, if you're bigger, and even though you feel feminine on the inside, that it's 100% okay. That these feelings are valid, that you are 100% valid.
Yeah. And I want to add a little bit to that as just like what other people feel about you. And I think as humans in general, we typically care a lot about other people's perception and how
Hmm.
they feel and how they react to you and things like that. And I think we as a society are moving into a direction where we as individuals are starting to care a little bit more about our own happiness versus people pleasing. And I think that this is finally a part where we are no longer kind of abiding by whatever rules were created
Hmm.
by the so-called, people in power
Hmm.
that created these things to maintain power, right? Like, even personally, I know that people in the comments on this are going to eat me up because I've never said this out loud, but this is the truth. Sir and ma'am are two word phrases that I totally despise
Thank
because
you. Same.
they were created to almost set a hierarchy,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm older than you
100%.
need to respect me.
Authority.
And the problem with that is that, in my opinion, respect is earned, not
Thank you.
just given.
Thank you.
So I don't care if you're 75 years old or if you're 12. If you give respect, you're going to get respect. And if not,
100%.
you're going to get the unrespectful me because that's just how it should be. So I
Yeah.
think, like, as we've kind of continued to evolve, people will be like, oh, that person's so disrespectful because they're not saying sir and ma'am and blah blah blah. And I'm like, are they disrespectful, or are they treating you the way you're treating them?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's the same people that stick to the customer is always right rule, right? Which is not really a fair rule at all. If you're treating someone like crap, don't be surprised. Don't be Pikachu face because somebody's treating you like crap in kind. It's like you're right. Respect is earned, and it's not something that you're just born with. A lot of people feel that way. Obviously, they're born into money. They're born with they're raised with these people that teach them like everybody else is underneath you, and that's not right. It's not. We're all human beings on this plane of existence, and it doesn't matter what your status is. You need to earn that respect because at the end of the day, when this is all over, we all end up in the same place. you know
Right.
that's it. We all end up in the same place, and uh you know be kind to the people around you. If you want people to be kind to you and not just fear you, then do that. Be that kind person.
To circle back a little bit, like was there like a specific time frame or a specific event that you can remember that was triggering for that? Or was it kind of like more gradual, just like little by little you learn more about yourself?
It was gradual for sure because yeah, it was like sprinkled in here and there because like it wasn't just like I woke up one day I'm like, "Hey, I feel feminine." No, it was more like little bits and pieces. It's like um in the house that I grew up in, it was totally normal for men to wear these long night shirts for sleeping, right? And but when I wore this like really long shirt, at the end of the day, when I look at it, it feels like a dress, and I would like look at myself in the mirror and I kind of like sway back and forth, and let it kind of, you know, s- sashay back and forth, I guess.
Yeah.
and it just kind of like it felt really nice, but then that was just like one small piece. And then something else would happen. I would kind of, the way I would cock my head for like photos and stuff. It's just little things here and there that made me feel better. But I didn't start piecing them really together until later in life. So it was kind of like all these things accumulated. It was a snowball effect.
Yeah. So growing up in Germany, kind of starting your life there, and then coming over to the US later on,
Mhm.
what was like the major difference you encountered from those two experiences?
So I was 9 years old when we left Germany. Uh, Probably closer to eight, but I wouldn't say there was. I mean, there's obviously a lot of differences between the two countries, but as a kid, not too much. Schools were a bit different. School was a bit harder coming to the United States, in that sense, I'm talking about being accepted.
Mhm.
Especially once kids found out I was from Germany. Oh gosh, kids are ruthless. Kids are ruthless.
These are the worst.
Um, because I would get um people found out that I came from Germany because here I am. I'm this kid that showed up in the middle of the school year, and uh they're basically once they found out, I started getting all the names, and this was early '90s, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're from Russia," because this was like right after the Berlin Wall came down, right? So, um, and or I'd be called German Shepherd, or yeah, even sometimes I would be called a Nazi. It's like because kids don't know any better, they just find the most offensive thing and just run with it. Right. So, that part was tough growing up, but I quickly came to be respected in a sense because I was always the tallest kid in school, especially before high school. Once people realized that I didn't take any crap, they just kind of left me
Yeah.
alone, because I would defend myself, and it's just and I also had parents too though that they'd say, oh, if people or if kids are bothering you, just walk away. Unfortunately, that's not very good advice, because you just get picked on more. You just get called a wuss, and they double down. They try even harder to get underneath your skin, to the point where sometimes it became physical. But I would always be the one like, hey, you can't overpower me. So it's just
Yeah.
like, why are you even trying? But
Why are you
so
trying to take on the 6 foot kid?
right, exactly. I mean, in elementary school, I wasn't 6 foot yet, but I was still tall. um,
Yeah, I'm still,
imagine,
you were probably like what, maybe like 5'8", 5'9" in middle school. I mean,
probably. I don't remember. Yeah.
yeah, I think I was like 5'1" in middle school.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I'm still trying to get to 6 feet. I've never made it, so
You just got to keep eating that good food.
right. Definitely, it's an adventure with trying to kind of just fit in a new place. I know for me,
Hmm.
moving in schools, I mean, I went to a lot of different schools in my time
Sure.
frame, and even going from one school to another was always very different, and always like you're the outcast almost, because like you're the
Hmm.
person that nobody knows. So
Yeah.
like you're kind of figuring it out. In your time frame of kind of encountering some of these bullies and stuff like that, what would your advice be to someone kind of going through that now?
So things are definitely a bit different now. There are a lot of anti-bullying rules nowadays, right? But it still happens. You're not going to get away from it, and especially now, a lot of it has shifted towards cyberbullying. Like kids may not even be bullied in actual school as much as we used to be, because now they'll just be found online by their peers and picked on or publicly humiliated with videos and stuff. So
Right.
it my advice though would be to, you know, as much as you can, as legally as you can, obviously, stand up for yourself. Never resort to violence or be the first one to act violently, obviously, but definitely stand up for yourself. And if it becomes too much, seek out the support of the elders, the counselors, the principal.
Right.
Definitely, make it known that things are happening, because it's not okay. Don't keep it in, because the longer you keep it in, the more it's going to just fester. And the last thing you want to do is completely break down or blow up. There's two extremes to that. It can lead to major depression or major something else. So, and I think a lot of times what happens is when kids, especially when they start acting out, is they don't have anybody that they can talk to. They may not have parents that they can talk to. At the end of the day, school may be their safer place. And but if they don't have a refuge at home, and if school is also very tough, then they may feel like that they don't have any other avenues. That's when I say, definitely seek the help, wherever you can find it, because there are advocates out there.
Yeah. I think that that is great advice because I think we don't share enough that it's okay to ask for help and to
Yeah.
get assistance when you need it.
Hmm.
And just finding those safe spaces to communicate is so important, especially
Yeah.
for young people. I think when you're really young and you're trying to navigate life, having someone to talk to is super. I mean, as an adult, you need it too, but like as a kid, you're like learning and growing and like looking for
Yeah.
answers. And sometimes Google can be your worst enemy as much as it can be your
Right.
best friend in
Oh
searching
yeah.
certain,
Especially with the new AI stuff, all the bad
especially with
results.
AI. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with AI. So as you started growing up, obviously being a military kid and being part of like that whole realm,
Hmm.
what made you decide to enlist in and be a part of all of that?
I'm going to be honest with you. While I didn't have the worst experience in school, I was also undiagnosed ADHD. And I found out later in life I'm probably on the spectrum as well with autism. So I had trouble with school, and I barely passed. And my parents didn't encourage or even know about community college or anything like that. So my options were basically very, very nil. My dad was basically like, either you're going to join the military or you're going to go to college. And he just kind of chuckles and said, well, you're definitely not going to go to college. Wow, thanks for the support. So yeah, I joined the military. And one thing he did say is like, after being 26 years in the army himself, he said, don't join the army. I said, okay. I didn't want to be in the Marines. Sorry to all those who serve, but I didn't want to be at the front lines, right?
Right.
I walked into the Air Force recruiter's office and they stuck their nose up at me, like all high and tooty whatever. Like, okay, so they obviously don't want me here. I walked into the Navy recruiter's office and they welcomed me with open arms. I'm like, okay, this is where I need to go. And
Right.
yeah, that's how I ended up in the Navy. Very, very uninteresting for the most part, but yeah, it was basically a lack of options is how I ended up in the Navy.
Yeah. What age did you officially join the Navy?
I was I had already been out of high school for like 9, 10 months. So I was 18. I actually had my 19th birthday while I was in boot camp.
Oh, you should have waited.
Right?
Right? They
Yeah.
probably did not celebrate the way you might have celebrated if you
No,
not.
I got a birthday card from my parents while I was in boot camp.
Yeah.
And the birthday card, it was like a multiple stack like cheeseburger. It had like 10 patties in the picture, and I'm like, guys, the food is not that great here. Why would you do this to me? It
Right?
was
You're like, I might eat this paper.
right, right. It looked tasty. Like I was salivating when I opened up the birthday card.
That is so funny. So you joined the Navy, and how many years did you officially serve in the Navy?
I I was supposed to do 4 years, but I got kicked out right before I hit my 3 year mark.
Okay. And what was your like best experience that you had while being part of the Navy?
Kind of what I was touching on before was meeting all the people outside the military. I mean, I met a lot of great people in the military as well. I had some great experiences, but meeting those people that opened up my eyes to the outside world, going to the clubs, going to parties and stuff like that, experiencing new things. Because I was never the one that was invited to parties in high school. I was kind of an outcast, and I hung out with outcast kids, so we never got invited to anything. So this was the first time where I felt like I was a part of something. So that was my best experience. Not overshadowing the fact that I was stationed in Hawaii and I could go to the beach whenever I wanted to, obviously.
Yeah, that too.
Right?
Especially from New Mexico. I mean,
Yeah. Well, this was coming from Mississippi, so even way
worse.
different, right? So, yeah, yeah. So going from Mississippi, boot camp was in Great Lakes, Illinois. My A school, which is the school you go to for training, my A school for military police. Yes, I was military police. Was in Kings Bay, Georgia, which is right north of Florida, like right above the border.
Yeah.
And so it was humid, all like crazy. It was super humid, and then but from there, I drew my name out of a hat, and I got to pick Hawaii, which was amazing. Um, but yeah, the best part was Hawaii itself and the great people that I met there.
I think the experience is amazing. I do have a couple of friends that have served in different parts of the military, and I find it amazing how some people that have never left their like hometown go and join the military and get to
Yeah,
experience so much of the world in such a like fast-paced type of environment
yeah,
that it really opens up kind of those um, thought processes. And I think,
hmm
I no offense to anybody listening that might have never left their hometown, but I really think that those who kind of go and experience these other places in the world and experience how people live and culture and
hmm
just kind of seeing these different things really does make you have a different love of life, but
yeah,
also make you have kind of like this larger thought process and just thinking about how you manage certain things,
yeah,
certain stuff that people complain about or are super angry about is like so minute in other countries and in other places around the world.
exactly.
You can
Al
learn how to
fresco.
like you can learn how to live in these like
Yeah.
experienced places that show you like this could also be fun and exciting
hmm
and a
hmm
different type of environment to live in.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that because I was lucky because yes, I originally came from Germany and I moved to the United States, but um, every couple of summers, my parents would send me back to Germany to hang out with my family for the summer. So, which I didn't touch on before, but I was really lucky in that sense because when I would go, my uncle who lives there still, we would go in his little RV with his family, and we go to little places like we go to the beaches of France, or one time we went to the Czech Republic, and we saw Prague, the capital city, and it was all like really nice, and I got to see and experience a lot of things as a kid. And I would come
Yeah.
back, and I would have these experiences with me, and I would look around at my peers, and they've only ever known this one place, and I would often have a bigger perspective of the world than they did, and they would say a lot of ignorant things that to others it may not be very ignorant, but to me it was like, okay, I get it. You don't have, you didn't get to travel like I did. I count myself very very lucky, right? And
Yeah.
and it's because people do tend to live in a bubble, and it's not their fault. Usually it's not their fault. Some people choose to stay in one place because that's all they know, but it's one of those things that I've always believed that travel is the greatest instructor of life in general, because how you live your life here doesn't mean people live their life the same way over here. And just because you live your life over here doesn't mean you should be afraid to experience what's going on over here. There is so much
Right.
going on over here that you have no idea about, or you have these misconceptions about because you watch these movies, especially like spy movies where they go to different countries, but they always show the same exact place. It's like, oh, here's London, here's Paris, and that's it. That's all of Europe, right? But no, there is so much more. There's
Right.
so much more to experience. And okay, sure, the beaches of France may not be the best because they're cold and windy, but but still, there is history there. There are so many different things to see, so many small towns in between the big towns. Go see the big towns. Go see the small towns. Stay at hostels. Don't be afraid just because you watch some hostel movies. They're really great experiences. There are so many awesome places to go see. Um, Even just outside your hometown, even people in the United States don't even travel outside their state, which I find mind-boggling. I'm like, you don't have to cross a body of water to get to this. Maybe a river, but that's it. You drive
Yeah.
across the river and you're in another state. And while America as a whole is pretty similar, there are so many different pockets of cultures. And as you know, coming from New York City, which is a melting pot in itself, there are so many other places in the United States that are way different than New York City. And
Yeah.
if you can just hop on a bus or rent a car and just go somewhere, do it. Don't be so afraid. That's what I say.
I have taken that opportunity to really go to like a lot of different cities and stuff and go to different places within the US. I find it so interesting how many people don't realize how many places you could go even without a passport, being a US citizen. I think it's so crazy to me, like the opportunities that people don't take.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, 100%. That outside perspective is so crucial in developing your own life, because you learn so much that you become a better person. Unless something really bad happens to you on your travels, right? But like,
Yeah.
which is a small possibility, but like if you're just going from one place to another, just at least once, that's enough to get that bug. You're going to get that travel bug, or wanderlust, as some people call it. You know, it's going to allow you to say, okay, you know what, that first trip wasn't that bad. I learned a lot. I saw some cool things. I went to Florida. Now let's try the Pacific Northwest. Complete opposite. Let's see what all these pictures, these waterfalls, and the trees are all about. Right?
Right.
Let's go see what it's about. And that's the beautiful thing about travel. Like you said, you don't have to have a passport. The fact that you can take a 6 hour flight and go all the way to Hawaii, and you're still in the United States
Right.
is mind boggling, right? And there are so many cool places. One of the places I'd love to go to is Alaska. Like I've always dreamed about going to Alaska during the summer, but yeah, I hear it's super beautiful, and the people are nice as well. So that's
Yeah.
on my bucket list to go there.
Yeah, I think Alaska would be beautiful. I'm just not a cold person. So I'm kind of like, I want to go, but I'm
Yeah.
like, how can I go and be the most comfortable as possible because it's cold. So, with your kind of life journey of being able to kind of do these traveling and stuff, where's your favorite place you've been?
Hmm,
I know that's hard. I
that
know
is
that's hard.
hard. Um, I'm gonna say my least favorite is Pennsylvania. Sorry, Pennsylvanians, but um, I'm not about that Amish life.
I get
Um,
it. I get it.
let's see here. I did visit New York City one time. It was on a school trip. It was only for one day, so we didn't get to see a lot. And I want to go back. It's another bucket list item of mine. I want to go back to New
Yeah.
York City and experience it for like a week or even 2 weeks because there's so much to it. And I was a kid. It was a school trip, and
Yeah.
half the day was driving there and coming back. And this was when I was living in Pennsylvania, by the way. But New York City, I say, is probably like my favorite place, even though I only got to experience it for one day. I've
Yeah.
lived in multiple states in this country, and I've lived in another country even. But I got to say, my most memorable experience was NYC for sure.
That's awesome. I'm biased. I love New York. But
Obviously.
I also feel like New York is very different, in my opinion, to anywhere I've ever been. Mainly for the fact that if you want to learn about Asian culture and strictly be in that
Mhm.
realm, there's a part of New York that you can do that. If you want to, go and see only Broadway shows and kind of be that Broadway girly for the weekend,
Yeah,
you can also go and just do that. So I think like it's beautiful to me because you're not leaving a city and you can experience multiple different things in one place.
100%.
And I feel like we don't have a lot of that. So I think that's my biggest thing for anybody that's never gone to New York City. It is not a weekend trip. It is a plan ahead and see what it is that you want to do and accomplish and plan accordingly. But you can really get a little taste of everywhere in the world just by going there and
For
like
sure.
traveling around, which is really inspirational for a lot of people to travel.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right, right. Yeah, food is another good reason to go to New York City.
Yes, I have yet to find food like that anywhere in the
Right,
world.
right. I've had a lot of good food in different parts of the world. I have been to Italy. I have tasted some authentic, cuisine. I went to Naples, Italy, which is the actual birthplace of pizza, and I had the original margherita pizza from the very first place that made it, and it was amazing. It tasted really, really good. But there are so many different ways of making pizza nowadays, right? That I do have other favorites. And yeah, different places make really good pizza. You know, what's weird? The second favorite place that I had pizza was in Hawaii. Of all places that you don't see Hawaii as like pizza, but there was this one
Yeah,
place that made pizza so good, and it's just the way they used their shallots and the cheese and all that. It was so good. I was like, but that was my experience, right? And people say, when it comes to the United States, you got to go to New York City for the best pizza. But then I also say, well, yes, yes, true. But if you want like a deep dish, maybe you want to go to Chicago or something like that, right? If
yeah,
it depends on what you like, but that's the whole thing about it is you don't know what you really like unless you get out of your comfort zone, you get out of that bubble, go experience different things, and you may just realize that what you liked before you don't like as much anymore, which is okay. It's okay to grow. It's okay to experience new things.
yeah. Your palate changes as you get
Yeah,
older, and I
yeah.
think depending on the type of pizza you like, I would suggest New York City because if you're a deep dish type of person, you're not
Hmm.
going to find deep dish pizza in New York the way you're going to find deep dish pizza in Chicago.
Right.
But the only like super biased situation I'm ever in is bagels. New
Ooh.
York City has the best bagels you will ever have in your life. I'm not sure if it's the water or how they make them or what it is. And I can tell, like, you can put two bagels next to me and I can take a bite and tell you which one's a New York bagel.
Wow. Okay.
That's how different they are
Yeah.
comparatively. And you have to go to like a bagel spot. Like if you go to like a regular place that like buys them from the store, it's very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But if you're in New York and you go to a bagel place that they make their bagels there every
Uh-huh.
single day, they are a completely different experience
Okay.
to bagels.
My only experience with bagels, like where they make them, would be like Einstein's, right? Like because they're a chain, they're everywhere.
Right.
Um, but that's my only experience. And but yeah, if you say the New York City bagels are best, I'm definitely gonna try them when I go.
New York City bagels, get a breakfast sandwich. It is the best you ever had. If I'm in New York, I'm going to a deli.
See, you said the magic word, deli. I miss, and this is something that Germany has because it communities are a bit more tight knit in the cities and even in the villages. There's always a deli of some sort or a bakery within walking distance. That right there is something I miss, and that's something I don't like about America as a whole, because everything outside of like New York City or major cities, everything's so spread out. Like even here in Albuquerque, it's a good sized city, but you have to drive like 20 minutes to get to anywhere, and it's it's not very walkable, right? And public transportation kind of sucks in a lot of places in the United States as well. So it's like, but being able to walk to a deli is a whole different experience. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go get some breakfast, or I'm gonna get some lunch meat, whatever, or whatever. And they have, an array of meats. And I'm not talking about like your Walmart deli section. No, 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 no. These are meats that are not mass produced. These different sausages and deli meats, all these different cuts. It's a different vibe completely. And when you walk in, you smell the fresh cuts, you smell the bread, it doesn't smell like a factory. It smells good. It smells like home, and
Yeah.
you can get a nice, little roll and some fresh meats and cheeses on there, and they'll make it for you, and it's just boom, there it is, and it's so good. And I miss that. I really do miss that. And Albuquerque has a couple of delis, but again, I have to drive to them. I have to make a whole thing out of it, right?
Right.
So it's not the same experience. When you can go for a nice fresh walk and get it in person and then bring it home and eat it, that's mm, so good.
And for people that have never encountered a deli, I'm so sorry for you
Right?
because the flavor of food there is so different because delis are usually like small businesses. It's so good. Yeah. You kind of talked a little bit about your parents and kind of your relationship with them. But I'd like to kind of dive in a little deeper and
Okay.
have you kind of just talk about how your relationship with your parents have kind of adjusted and changed over time. And what did you kind of use or what conversations do you think that you had that really helped um, understand that relationship as you moved along?
So here's the tough part about this conversation. So I would have to say that it was strained. My parents usually had my corner in a lot of things. Um, I remember back when I thought I was bisexual, when I was, I was bisexual. I shouldn't say I thought I was, but I was. We were at the dinner table and I was like in the 11th grade at this point. So I was almost done with high school. Um, but I was at the dinner table and I started crying, and, it's like, why are you crying? And I couldn't get the words out. Like, I was crying and because I felt like I was ashamed of what I was about to tell them,
Yeah.
and I think that really ruined my delivery of what I was telling them, because already it puts it in their mind that I should be guilty of this, right? And I told them I'm bisexual, and of course the first words out of my mother's mouth were, "Oh, it's just a phase." Okay, right? Just because that there are worse things I guess she could have said, but it wasn't the best either. And it and then my dad was just kind of quiet about it. With his 26 years in the army, he's seen a lot of different things, and He had his opinions. He's originally from Memphis, Tennessee, so you can kind of imagine, his mindset. Um, it was it was it was tough, but we eventually just kind of didn't talk about it again. It was almost like it didn't happen. And I thought in my mind, I'm like, okay, I really can't go to my parents for this. Um, I wasn't kicked out or anything like that, because you hear those horror stories, right? Kids
Yeah.
getting kicked out of their home, and they're not even 18 yet. They're just being completely uh, uh, kicked out, cast out, I should say. Um, and that can be very damaging. But I'm kind of okay with the way it happened because I found that later in life I found my community elsewhere. People who were more like minded, and that's okay. And there's something to be said about you know if your parents don't support you, plenty of other people will, and that's so true. There are way more communities, as you know, that are like-minded and that will support you, and honestly sometimes even be your parents if you don't have them, because it's we're not always going to get the love that we want in all aspects. And just because someone raised you or someone gives birth to you doesn't really give them power over you either. And that's something I actually touched about on one of my recent videos on TikTok when I'm talking about my mother, about how narcissistic she was and how she became even more so later in life. Um, it's like I don't talk to her anymore, and some people in the comments are like, well, yeah, but she's your mother, so that doesn't mean anything anymore. Again, just because somebody gives birth to you does not give them power over you or authority in any way.
Right.
Circling back to what we talked about in the beginning, respect is earned.
Right.
Respect is earned, and that includes your parents. Like, so yeah, it wasn't the greatest, right? Growing up, but like I said, I found my tribe. I found my people later, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And chosen family is a real thing. And
Yeah.
it is, so amazing to be able to meet people that you can express your authentic self to and that love you unconditionally. And I genuinely feel that if you grow up in a household that you are consistently disrespected, that becomes your new norm.
Mhm.
So now you're going to bring that into future relationships, whether you're going to disrespect other people or you're going to get into a relationship with somebody that continuously disrespects you,
Yep.
because that's what you find as being comfort. And I find that to be so sad because it doesn't allow you to open up to find out what truly makes you happy.
Yep. 100%. And I like what you said too about how you were raised can influence if you were hurt, right? And there's another phrase, hurt people.
Right.
And it's something that my wife and I go through a lot. We discuss a lot because we were both raised by parents who have hurt us one way or another, in different aspects. Whether it was about our weight or about our performance in school or whatever, right? So,
Mhm.
and this is something that we talk about a lot, and it has actually, I believe, made us better parents because we are stopping that generational trauma. We're putting a wall up. We're not going to raise our son this way. We're not going to do the same things that our parents did to us. And
Right.
and we have an 11-year-old son, who is awesome, and we are raising to be open-minded. And yes, he knows that I'm non-binary, and but I'm still his dad. That's one phrase I didn't want to change, right? It's like, I'm your dad, and but you can always come to me because I have a lot of experience from life, and I you can talk to me about anything. He comes to us, and he's able to talk about things way more than I was able to talk to my own parents about. And that's important, is to be able to have a place where your kids can feel safe. If they don't feel safe with you, they're not going to talk to you. And if you're going to get upset at them for not talking to you, well, that's something that you need to change, not them. 100%.
Right. Yeah, and I love that you're able to kind of continue that growth. And I think it takes one person to make the change for themselves on like I'm no longer going to accept this and pass on kind of like that positivity and the change of the mindset. And that's really kind of what is going to help kind of future generations continuously evolve and grow. And I think, you know, that's probably one of the biggest things a lot of these people fear that are older is that we are truly changing the generations going forward because we're not allowing ourselves to treat people poorly and then expect them to do for us what we want them to do. And
Yeah.
we're leveling with them. We're understanding the growth. We know what it is to go through a struggle phase and figure out who you are. And so why would we treat people going through that poorly
Mhm.
when we know we can probably help them be better people
Yeah,
coming through that and understanding that throughout the process.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, and there's a lot to be said about, going back to that generational trauma. It's like, there's this mentality, especially by the baby boomer generation. It's like, well, we had to go through it, so do you, right? And that is so backwards. It's like, don't you want a better world for your children, your grandchildren? And because at the end of the day, if my son decides to have children, like I would like for him to bring his children to us, and that would be great. I want him to feel comfortable and safe enough to be able to come to us, later on in life, even when he's much older. Like, hey, dad, hey, mom, I have a problem. Yes, that's fine. You come to us, and we will help you
Right.
because I want us to help him the way our parents didn't help us, right?
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's huge, and I think it's a support system that really helps us kind of build and grow. I mean, we go look for that, right? That's what our chosen families are, is the support system that we didn't have in our own homes. So
That
we go and
village.
we find these people that want to help us grow and see us succeed. What do you think was like the turning moment for you to, figure out how you were going to move forward in life with your parents?
I think I wasn't the only one to figure that out. Honestly, so my father passed away in 2017, and um, my mother had already not been very kind towards like my wife and stuff like that, and it just kind of got worse after that. And honestly, she showed me her true colors already in the beginning
Right.
there, and it was already. She kind of made it easy for me to push her away in that sense because I couldn't talk to her about the things that I'm talking about now. And the way she treated my wife and the backhand comments and stuff like that. And she still doesn't know that I'm non-binary. She doesn't know about this part of my life. She only knew back when I was a kid and I told her I was bisexual. That's all she knows.
Right.
She probably thinks I grew out of it because that's in her mind that was her ideal situation, right? So she honestly kind of helped me in that sense of helping me move forward, and my wife as well. She's my rock. She is so awesome. She grew up with some adversity as well, and she already knew I was queer in a sense, when we first met. But as we continued our relationship together, we've been together for like 12 years now. We helped each other grow, especially me coming out of my shell. So it's been a journey on figuring myself out, but also coming out of that shell. I feel more emboldened to talk to more people about this, like we're doing right now, because and like I've been doing my TikTok lives, talking to people, and even though yes, there are a lot of trolls on there, but it's um it's therapeutic for me, but I know it's also therapeutic for other people as well because if I only speak to one person out of 1,000 viewers, right? If one person gets value out of that, then I feel like I've done good, and even if only one person sees this episode, whatever, it's fine. I'm okay with that because I want people to know that it's okay. Because look, I'm 41 years old. Here I am, just recently figuring out who I am. I've been on HRT for 1 year now because I want, some more feminine characteristics, and it's made me feel better. I feel better than I have my entire life, even though I'm older, and my body ages. I feel better because
Yeah.
I'm able to be myself, and that is huge. Once you can get past past that locked door, once you can get out that door, it's going to be better in a way because you're allowed to be yourself. You're no longer confined, and getting out of that personal prison is huge.
I definitely agree. Know that me scrolling on TikTok was how I first kind of come to know you a little bit and learn a lot more about the content that you're posting and being a part of the queer community. And I think what made me first initially say this person should share their story is really the way that you manage the trolls in the comments, right? I thought it was so amazing how like no matter what they said or no matter what was being typed in and stuff like that, I think it's how we handle the situation on the external of that and how we react to those things. We have the control of that. People are going to be trolls. People are
Yeah.
going to say crazy things. I think the thing that we should realize is the troll is just as important as a regular fan, if not more important than a fan, because the troll is going to share it to their troll friends and they're all going to be looking at it.
Yep.
Um, and I love a troll. The more you hate me, the more I'm on your mind, the more you're thinking
Hmm.
about me,
Yep.
the more you're sending me stuff, the more you're sharing
Exactly.
my content.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that like you're just pushing me out. You're getting more people to talk to me, to say
Yep.
things to me, to express themselves, and I'm okay with that.
one hundred
I'm
percent.
okay with you sharing those things. So as we've kind of learned on social media how to manage that, what is your method? Like, what do you think about when you're communicating with these people on your lives and dealing with this hate that comes towards you in these conversations?
I feel I feel sad for them because we talked about those bubbles earlier, right? And in a way that even though they're on social media, they also live in this bubble where they think of us and when I say us, I mean those of us who live outside the bubble, especially in the genderqueer community. They see us as this weird alien thing, right? Like something that should be feared. And in a way, I understand it because I have been around. I have lived outside of the social media. I grew up with the advent of the internet before it was widely available to everyone, before everyone could just access the internet from their phone.
Yeah,
It's you know I grew up uh, before dial-up even was commonplace. In the AOL era and all this stuff. Instant Messenger, ICQ, AIM, all that stuff. And I was gradually introduced to social media. I mean, I just got on TikTok like 2 years ago. But there's kids that have been on there for years already, right? But how I handle it is again is seeing these people and realizing that they have not experienced the world as I have. They are in this perpetual information cycle of these people telling them, this is how the world should be. This is the bubble that you should live in. When there's such a bigger picture out there, and I see that, and I say, especially when they come on my lives and they start saying all these things, I say, you realize I'm on your front page for a reason. I am here looking at you. You're looking at me for a reason. Okay. And that's because you're going on all these different lives and spewing your hate, when in fact you're actually helping me by commenting on my live. You're pushing the algorithm to more people, so thank you for that. And I tell people that, I say thank you so much. And a lot of them do kind of drop off after I say that, but some of them stay around to spread, to say more hateful things. Some of them, I believe, are just straight up bots, which is not unheard of, right?
right.
And in that sense, a lot of times I see a lot of them as bots anyway, especially when they start repeating the same thing over and over again. It's like, okay. And I just start filtering certain words. And so it has reduced the amount of people that show up in my life because they all try to say the same thing, certain keywords, which you can filter out.
Right.
So it's at the end of the day, I handle it as just any sort of interaction. It's like, okay, you have hateful things to say. You're not going to affect me negatively just because you're negative. It's not going to bother me. Again, you're bringing more traffic. That means more like-minded people are also going to join my live, and those are the people that I want to spread my message to. So
Right.
it's no big deal to me.
Yeah, and I love that. And I would say anybody on here, I'm a huge proponent of encouraging people to start your dreams, go do whatever you want to do. If you want to be a TikToker, if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be whatever, right? You should go out there and do that. Don't worry about the 5% of people that'll hate you. They're going to be the loudest people on your page.
Yep.
But they're going to make sure that more people see what you've got going on, are pushing out that extra content, and they're gonna be the ones that make you more famous because that's what it is,
True.
right? So I definitely see where that can be so useful, and it is hard to sometimes not absorb that energy, and you've got to be able to check it at the door, and I think that's where people get a little bit frustrated, is because it is hard to not take that with you when you do log off. But my advice is, think about your TikTok or whatever as like a job. When you walk out the door, it's done. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
end of that. Don't bring that home with you.
Right.
Because you got to be able to let it go and let it just, do its own thing.
100%.
So in your life journey, being really so like well traveled, well experienced,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your advice to someone else that is your same age, or maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, that's starting to notice these things, but is afraid to kind of come out? And everybody listening, I'm not into the whole come out story. I'm not into like this whole big have a party to tell everybody that you're queer. But,
Like a
just,
gender reveal party.
yeah, like just what would be your advice to encourage people to live more authentically themselves?
I know it's difficult for a lot of people because of the environment that they're in. Some people have a certain social status where they're not able to come out of that shell. And some people may never be able to come out of that shell, even though they feel a certain way on the inside, because they have this image that they have to protect. And that's really, really difficult, right? It may be easier for people who don't have that type of social status, right? To be able to just
For
come
sure.
out, and so your environment does have a lot to do with it. But if you are feeling this certain way on the inside, do what you can to embrace it. Even if it's just to yourself, embrace it. Don't feel guilty about it. There is nothing wrong with how you're feeling on the inside. Nobody can get inside your head. Nobody knows what you're thinking. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay that to experience these emotions. If you feel more feminine, or if you're assigned female birth and you feel more masculine, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with how you feel on the inside. There is no shame. There's no guilt. And especially, if you don't come out, and that's okay if you never do, but just know that there is an entire community out here. There are dozens of us. I've always like saying that there's dozens of us, right? But we are so many, and it may seem like we're such a small little pocket, but we're everywhere,
Yeah.
around every corner. So know that we exist, and we are here with open arms if you need to come to us. That's the community that we're in. Yes. Do some queer people like to gatekeep? Yes, that is true. That happens. Unfortunately, it's just like with race and colorism and stuff like that. There is some gatekeeping, but that's not the norm. There are plenty of us that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what alphabet you fall on LGBTQIA plus and whatever else gets added on in the future. It's okay. You belong. You belong here, and you are valid.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think everybody listening, everybody has heard I refer to everybody as just queer. I think it doesn't matter where you fall in the group of
Mhm.
everyone who just doesn't fit the social norm.
Right.
It's, you know, there is a community of us that don't fit the social norm. So when we
Yeah,
see the world change, but this social norm not change, that's where I find the biggest issues.
100%.
Um, what would be the top things that you want to have people really understand about your story and your journey, that could inspire other people?
Something that I struggled with at the beginning of my non-binary journey, because I believe there are multiple. Sorry, I believe there are multiple journeys that come together in your life. Something that I struggled with was my age, right? Because if you look up non-binary on Google, you start seeing images of all these younger people, right? And that in its way, in that sense, that can be dysmorphic as well because um, you see these younger people and you feel like that you can't be this person of how you identify on the inside because you're older. But that's not true. We exist. Those of us who are older, who are trying to help everybody else. We exist, and that's what I'm saying is, if you're my age or even older, that it is okay that you can express yourself the way you want because it's about how you feel on the inside that matters the most. It's something like I said, I struggled with it. I've come to terms with it, and I realized too that the main reason you see more younger people is because the information was given to them at an earlier stage in their lives, right? The information was only given to me, in recent years because I grew up with the internet where, information got spread slowly, and now it's become everybody's online now. So now information is spread even faster. Communities are able to come together even better. We can organize events online. We can talk to each other online, right? And there are some bad aspects, of course, like what we talked about earlier, right? But there's a lot of good in that if you know where to go. Again, like I said earlier, we are here, we exist, and we're here to help you along this journey. It doesn't matter your age. It does not matter if you come out at 90 years old and say, I feel this way. I am queer. That's okay. It's all right, because at that point you can say that you get a sense of relief because you're able to get that out of your system because it's important. Who you are is important no matter what society says, and that's my message.
That is perfect. There couldn't have been said any other way. I think so many of us, are still learning who we are. I think we're still trying to break down these social constructs that we have kind of been raised on, and really
Hmm.
kind of understanding who we are as individuals. And it takes a moment, but the moment you can truly feel and be authentically yourself, it kind of change your whole outlook on life. It really gives you a different perspective on kind of what you're balancing and what you're kind of going through. And I think so many people, even if you start living authentically by yourself in your own home or in your own bedroom, if you're young and whatever, being able to kind of really live authentically for even that short period of time will kind of help you gain that strength to continue to do it all the time, and really kind of live a more constructive life for yourself.
100%. We have a really strong community despite what the other side of things may say or however they may perceive it. We're not just a small area, right? We still have a long way to go. We fought for gay rights for a very long time, and now we're fighting for transgender rights, and it's a continuous battle. But honestly, we need you. We need you to come out and fight that battle. And even if that means just getting on TikTok and talking about your experiences, that's enough. You don't have to go to rallies. You don't have to do this or that. Just talk about your experiences, because if you're talking about your experiences, that it makes other people feel more valid and feel like that they belong. And that's important because we're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what the other side says. We're here to stay, and it's okay. We belong in this world. You are valid.
I love that. There has been queer people around the world forever. And
forever.
there will always be queer people in the
Hmm.
world. I feel like that is, I'm gonna put that on the screen in words.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is so
100%.
important. So, to bring this podcast to a close, the only way we know how, by being a little bit shady, who do you officially want to say girl bye to?
It's going to be my mother, 100%, because I've just had some terrible experiences in the last 10, 15 years with her, especially when it comes to my wife, and even our own son. Being in a multiracial relationship as well, there's been a lot of shade thrown at us about our relationship. So I've been cutting her off more and more, and yeah, girl, bye to her for sure.
Well, I definitely love that you're willing to share that one. I think it is so important in our journey in general to realize that, yes, they might be family, and yes, there is a certain level of like, I've known this person for so long, but I think so many people don't realize that the other side of that coin, in my opinion, is that you've known this person for so long and they're willing to discredit you and disrespect
Hmm.
you as an individual.
This is something that I talk to my wife about a lot, actually. It's like, I miss my mother, but the person that she used to be. She used to be more nurturing, more mother-like, right? Someone that I could look up to. But, it's just she basically put herself in a spot where I don't see her that way anymore. So, yes, I mourn who she used to be. I think
Yeah.
when I think of her fondly, it is when I was younger. But I don't want her in my life anymore because she has proven over and over again that she's not willing to change. She is not willing to apologize for the mistakes that she's made because it's all about gaslighting and being a narcissist with her. And it's just, I, yeah, goodbye.
Yeah. Gotta live more peacefully. That's what
Exactly.
it's gotta be.
And my life is
So,
better.
for everybody listening, tell them where they can find you on social media and continue watching your story.
So I can be found primarily on TikTok, and that is Create with Cam. Just like it sounds, Create with Cam, no weird spellings or anything. And yeah, that's where I do my stuff.
Perfect. Obviously, for everybody listening, if you're listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube. You can see it in the description. If you're in Spotify, you can also see it in the description, but I know some of you guys don't even look at the description. So you can go over to YouTube and check it out. Go follow Cam on TikTok and see the amazing stories that are talked about, and just the smaller conversations that you talk about when you're on live, I think are so huge and so important, and an
Thank
amazing
you.
thing for people to join on and see how you're doing and watch your story as you continue to grow. I'm excited to be able to be part of that journey. I will be definitely following you forever and watching your journey. And I'm excited to have had you here on the podcast. So thank you for taking time today to be with us. Join us every Monday at 6 p.m. where we launch a new episode of GirlBye. And thank you everyone for listening. As always, our family has continued to grow episode after episode. So thank you guys all for listening. Make sure that you share, like, and do all the things all the other people tell you to do on their stuff. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Girl, bye.
Girl, bye.
Girl, bye.
Girl,
Girl, bye.
bye.
Bye, girl, bye.